We're having a fascinating conversation about Facebook, Twitter, social media, and where we're going with our own privacy rights in the future. And our special guest today, Dr. Heather Starr-Fiedler, Professor of Social Media and Chair of the Department of Community Engagement at Point Park University, and Paige Beal, Chair of Sports, Arts, and Entertainment Management at Point Park's Rowland School of Business. Ladies, thank you again. Welcome back. I'm still puzzled. Exactly what's the issue here for the millions of Facebook users out there? I believe 2/3 of Americans are on Facebook. And admittedly, David and I are the one-third who are not on Facebook. But what's the real problem here, given what happened with data and Cambridge Analytica?
I think there's a lot of people that are asking that same question. What is the issue? We agreed to give you our data, and you're using our data to market to us, so what's the problem? Other people feel as though it's an invasion of their privacy and their trust, that we agreed to give certain data, but maybe that's being used in a way that we weren't comfortable with, and that Facebook didn't tell us about that. I think that's really where Facebook has gotten themselves in trouble this time around, is that they've known about this for years, and this is the first we're hearing about it from Facebook. And I think that violation of trust is really where they're in trouble.
Paige, you feel the same way?
Yeah, there's such a thing as corporate social responsibility. And this is not a new issue. This has been there for a long time. It goes back to 2007 and the inception of any of the social media. We know they make money based on being able to deliver data that advertisers can then use to target. That's how they make money. That's their business model. So it shouldn't come as a surprise. But we are able to use these particular tools and enjoy them, and and it's again the price you pay. But I think it comes to the core of what is the effect of these tools, social media, on our culture. And we're beginning to see more and more that is more of a psychological, divisive effect that is now being deployed.
Right.
And that's frightening.
So I want to ask the two professors this. Say you're on Facebook and you are concerned about these, but you like the social aspect of it. You like finding out what your college roommates' kids are doing. You like checking up on your college girlfriend. But you're a little worried about this. Are there some steps you should take?
I think the very first step, which I did myself last night, is to go and look at the apps that you are currently allowing to see your data. I had over 300 apps in my list, and I have not even heard of half of them because it was probably something I clicked on years ago without thinking twice. So going in and cleaning up that list of apps that have access to your data. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have access to the data that they already have. They're not going to delete that existing data, but they won't continue to collect data on you. And then, really keeping everything as private as possible so that you're only publishing things to your friends list. You're not liking other pages, because when we like pages, when we follow pages, when we use certain words in our public posts, that's the data scraping that they're doing to make these psychographic profiles of us.
Well, we like this page at least, so what is your view?
I think definitely that. I think what you have to realize is all these apps are connected to the back end of Facebook in order to become for Facebook, something that scales Facebook. So I think that's an important point just to begin with, that they arrange this with the apps. But now, if you want to clean it up, you do exactly that, and then you also go in and determine some of the ad targeting elements that are being used to send you ads. Right. And so you go, honestly, the security and privacy settings in Facebook are worth about a half a day to go through. There's a lot, but if you want to be clear and clean, you need to go through them.
I want to ask you, professors, about the political relationship here, because one of the issues that came out of this Cambridge Analytica has to do with the relationship to Donald Trump's campaign. And I think a lot of folks who are on social media are there for fun, share information, yeah, right, maybe get information about their friends' daughters or sons or whatever. But the bottom line is they're not there for politics. Some are, but a few are. Is there any kind of control mechanism that you could imagine that might keep our information away from political campaigns who are clearly going to target us because they think we're a potential vote?
Well,
I wish I had the answer.
Yeah, I wish I had the answer. And that it skirts always, freedom of speech.
Right.
So Germany has decided that they're going to be very forward in their approach to this, and they are targeting specific hate speech and so forth that they will edit for. I actually think back to, when we had the 3 or 4 broadcasters that were out there and they dominated the media landscape and they became the water cooler talk. We had a very specific cultural perspective.
Right.
Since it's become so fragmented, it is no longer that, one cultural perspective. And the danger that we do have is that this stuff is being, and I've heard this verbiage quite a bit now, weaponized. And that was, I think, what got everybody upset about the Cambridge Analytica.
I agree it's weaponized. I agree that this is terrifying. But I do wonder whether this is any different from, say, the Barry Goldwater campaign of 1964, buying the subscription list of National Review.
No, it's very similar, but at that point you had 3 networks that were dominating the landscape, and they all spoke with a very similar journalistic perspective, which was not talking heads sitting around getting upset and screaming at each other about one. We only had those news elements.
Well,
so now it's
the other
different.
difference, it's instant access.
Yeah.
Of course.
You can press a button and you
Yes.
can reach not just the 10, 15, 20, 30,000 people who subscribe to National Review or whatever. You're reaching millions of people and you're reaching them in an instant.
No, it's a scale. It's a question of
scale. It's a scale, right.
And it's a question of the insidiousness of it and the general ignorance of the users about the potential use of their own data.
Right, and I think it's got to be a two-prong approach. So there's certainly this side where we need to think about what Facebook is doing and what they're showing us, but I think we also need a lot more media literacy in the country to let people really understand what they're seeing and how they're being targeted by certain political campaigns.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right on the literacy side of this, because it's not just older folks who don't understand it. It's younger folks.
Yes.
It's your students. It's my kids who basically accept, because they grew up with this, they accept everything, and there's no real scrutiny of this.
Right.
Again, what can we do about it?
I think you can accept the fact that most of our data is out there and is being used, whether it be on social media or in any other fashion. It's being used to reach us. And from a marketing perspective, we hope that the companies that are utilizing it are doing so with a corporate sense of social responsibility. That means that it won't be used to divide us, but it is part of our capitalistic culture that we are looking at better ways of being able to give you an ad about something that you would like versus something you wouldn't like, something that's relevant versus not relevant, and that has in its very essence the algorithms that are used to deliver this.
I do wonder a little about the so-called innocence of the public here. As an experiment you might do, I did this. I looked up a restaurant in Montreal. About 3 days later, all the ads on my my phone were about hotels in Montreal. Now, that was either a cosmic coincidence or some conspiracy, or simply the use of social media of your data. How can you not know this?
You'd be surprised that people, and I think they're getting, those are the really obvious ways, but there are a lot more subtle ways that people are starting to target people with this micro-targeting that you maybe don't know is happening, and that's what I think we need to educate the public, and we need to even find out how they're targeting. I was surprised even when I read some of the Cambridge Analytica stuff about how they were creating fake profiles and fake groups to get people more, riled up about the election, and even in-person protests that were not real but would get people talking on social media.
We only have a couple minutes left, and we've touched on this, but I want to come back to it because it is an area that I care about, which is First Amendment and First Amendment rights. Because I do think that there is that slippery slope of regulating speech, which is obviously different from regulating conduct. Talk to us a little bit about what you see happening with social media. Are we basically saying everything goes and just go do it?
I think we've been doing that for a long time, and I think that needs to change. I think finding that balance between, maintaining our First Amendment rights and not having hate speech and really realizing what's fake and what's real is going to be a hard thing to figure out, but I think it's something that we need to work hard to figure out.
There used to be this, I remember the clothing store Sims, and they used to have this saying, an educated consumer is our best customer. An educated consumer is your best customer and my best customer, and you in the academy, your best customers. And we need to educate people about what's real and what's not.
It seems to me that all of this discussion comes back to whether or not there'll be new forms of social media. You're the professor, so you're kind of at the cutting edge of this. It's not just Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and the like. Where are we headed in the next decade?
Well, I think you're seeing it with the voice activation, and Facebook and Apple and Amazon and Microsoft, along with Google, are all part of this. They're all approaching $1 trillion in market cap. These are the big ones out there that are pulling all this data together.
What do you mean by voice activation?
Voice activation, like the little things that you talk to, or
Alexa.
if you're activating.
Oh, Alexis.
Yes, yes.
Alexa.
And so everybody's got one of those. Amazon's got it all tied back to your consumer
I don't
data.
have one of those because I hear they spy on you.
Yeah. Well, I have my iPhone the other day. Someone near me said, "Hey Siri," and my phone opened up, and was listening to them, and it's that kind of thing. It's a little bit more, again, it's
almost Big
wonderful.
Brother-ish.
It is Big Brother.
Thinking back to George Orwell, if people are reading books, reading 1984.
But it's one we're inviting. This is what is amazing. We're inviting this. And then virtual reality and the continued artificial intelligence is what's going on with that back end of Facebook. So
we got about 30 seconds left. Is Facebook doomed?
This may just be the opportunity for these other new social media networks to get their foot in the door, because they took a really big hit this week. I don't think they're doomed. I think there are still people who like Facebook's what it does and what they can share on Facebook. So I think that they're going to stick around and survive this, but I think this might be that opening that other social media networks are looking for.
You agree, Paige?
The gorilla in the room. I think it's going to be hard to take them down. It'll be more than
Interesting. It'd be very interesting if this is what kills Facebook, I'll tell you. Well, ladies, thank you very much. It's great to have our professors, obviously experts in this area, on our show today. Very much appreciate all your help. David Shribman and I will be back with some final thoughts when the KDPG Sunday edition continues in just a few moments. Stick with us.